All right, good evening. Welcome to Columbia Heights Public Schools, Independent School District 13 School Board meeting for Tuesday, May 8th, 2018. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask if you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and good evening. Hall, if you would please call the roll.
Lewis. Here. Larkin.
Here.
Saberson. Mueller.
Here.
Palmer.
Here.
Samurai. Here. And Superintendent Kelly.
Here.
Thank you, Hall. Our mission statement: Columbia Heights Public Schools create worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. Our core values are community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. First up tonight is our Highlander highlights. We'll be honoring our high school students who won specific awards in the 5AA state competition, visual arts, and the music awards. We'll start by, I think we're going to start with the art stuff. And this is from a press release. 14 Columbia Heights High School art students have earned a total of 16 Minnesota State High School League 5AA state competition visual arts awards. The awards include 7 Superior Awards, 8 Excellent Awards, and a spotlight on the Arts Judge Award. I'd like to ask Erin if you would come up and talk a little bit about the process that the kids went through.
Thank you. Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, and members of the board. We're really proud of our students every day in the art classrooms here, and it's really exciting when we get to see them go out of our district and see where they stand against others in our state. So this state high school league is largely like our state basketball tournament, right? And so that Fiorella, who's actually pictured up here right now, that Spotlight Award is going to state. I mean, she's at the Perpich Center this last weekend on display with the other top ones from all the different sections around the state. So that's something really to be proud of, to have students at that exhibition, in addition to the individual awards that were received by other students. They're judged on composition, craftsmanship, process and problem solving, expressive qualities, and they do have to write artist statements, and those artist statements are taken heavily into account in their work. So the kids work really hard to not only have work that is meaningful to them, but work that they can actually speak to that connection and be able to put out the reason and the intent in their art. And that's something that's really valuable for them moving forward into art careers or into art college classes and things like that. And I don't think we have any of them that were able to make it tonight for the art. At least I didn't have any up yet. So yeah. So this is their work. And
Okay.
yeah, and then also anyone, we also sent out your expressions invitations this time too, so you have those in your board minute or your board notes from Don Hoyam has those for you. And that next week on Wednesday and Thursday is our exhibition at Silverwood, and most of this work, along with everything else that's been out at shows around the state, will be there to see what our kids are doing throughout the district.
Okay.
Yeah.
Erin, maybe we could do this. First of all, do we have any of the kids that are here tonight that received the awards from the art on the art side of things?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe what I'll do is we want to go back to the first one, and I'll read what she actually received, and then you
Okay.
can show her
Yep,
art, and then
for
we'll
sure.
go to the next one if that works for you. Fiorella Salazar is recognized for receiving a spotlight on the Judges and Superior Awards at the Minnesota State High School League 5AA State Visual Arts Competition. And her artwork was, I think, the first one.
I don't have control, do I? Or do I have control? Okay.
She doesn't have control? Okay, look for Fiorella. Okay.
Say,
And
I don't know
normally
who
we
has
would,
control.
and normally we would, at this point, we would take pictures and we would clap for the kids. So if we maybe recognize her, even if she's not here, if we could do that, that would be great. Noah Servio was up there. I saw his stuff. Is recognized for receiving 2 Superior Awards at the Minnesota State High School League 5AA State Visual Arts Competition. And again, round of applause for that. Melissa Hosh is recognized for receiving a Superior Award at the Minnesota State High School League 5AA State Visual Arts Competition. Lily Dixon is recognized for receiving a Superior Art Award at the Minnesota State High School League 5AA State Visual Arts Competition. Pagal Ahmad is recognized for receiving a Superior Award at the Minnesota State High School League 5AA State Visual Arts Competition. Jihong Nai is recognized for receiving an excellent award at the Minnesota State High School League 5AA State Visual Arts Competition. Salma, is it Khalif?
Khalif, yeah.
Khalif, thank you, is recognized for receiving an excellent award at the State High School League Visual Arts Competition. Jamyang Dolma is recognized for receiving an excellent award at the Minnesota State High School League Visual Arts Competition. Tucker Steen, thank you, is recognized for receiving an excellent award at the Minnesota State High School League 5AA State Visual Arts Competition. Andy Zhang is recognized for receiving an excellent award at the Minnesota State High School League Visual Arts Competition. Dennis Johnson is recognized for receiving an excellent award at the State High School League Visual Arts Competition. Mark Makavian Matthews is recognized for receiving an excellent award at the Minnesota State High School League Visual Arts Competition. Nicole Kirshner is recognized for receiving an excellent award at the Minnesota State High School League Visual Arts Competition. And Sage Holtz is recognized for receiving a Superior Award at the Minnesota State High School League State Visual Arts Competition. So, and Arian, just to emphasize what you talked about, this is the equivalent of the state tournament for whether it be basketball or football or whatever the case may be. So this is a big deal, and I know that consistently this is something that we see each year, the successes with the kids. So.
And I think the other thing to note is that we have, I mean, if you see this, we have photography, digital art, mixed media, painting, ceramics, and sculpture all represented. So it's a very well-rounded showing from our students as well.
Well, congratulations to all the kids. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we'll be talking about our student vocalists who earn superior ratings. Columbia Heights High School vocalists earned superior ratings and medals at the 2018 Minnesota State High School League Music Solo Ensemble. And Mr. Borski, I'm going to ask you to come up, maybe talk a little bit about the process that they went through, if you would, please.
John Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, and all members of the board, thank you for inviting us tonight. We appreciate it. Solo Ensemble Contest is something that is put on by the State High School League every year, and it's unique and kind of difficult to explain the competitive nature to the students because unlike basketball, you're not necessarily competing against others. You're more competing against yourself, if that makes sense. Now, every student who attends gets a rating, and the highest possible is superior. I was very proud of all three kids who had attended. They all got superior, so that was wonderful. And the way they are scored is a judge watches them, and these judges tend to be some of the finest and most experienced either choral directors or voice teachers in the state. When I when I looked at the list of who was judging us, I thought, ooh, I'm a little bit nervous because there were some really, really big names up there. But the kids were very successful. They did a great job. And they choose a solo song. They go in, they sing it for the judge listens, and they grade them on things like dynamics, musical accuracy, interpretation of the song setting, etc. And they all came up with a superior. And what's really neat at the end, after they finish singing, there's a little learning process. Each student has a chance to be coached by the judge, which is a really great way for them to get some more tips to improve their skills as a vocalist and just expand their learning. So it was a wonderful experience. We're glad we got to do it, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
It was wonderful.
Cool, thank you very much. We'll go similar process but different. We have one of the students that was not able to make it tonight, so we'll recognize Annika Duckwall. She was recognized for receiving a Superior Award at the Minnesota State High School League Music Solo Ensemble Contest. So congratulations, Annika. Now, you two aren't going to be quite as lucky. What we're going to do is we're going to meet over here, and they're going to take a picture, and then we'll have you walk around and shake the hands of the other board members so they congratulate you as well. So we'll start with Cleopatra Kambitsky. Close? All right, come on up. And then we got Emily Valet. Right, come on. She is recognized for receiving a Superior Award at the Minnesota State High School League Minnesota Solo Ensemble Contest. Bye. Congratulations again. That's high honors and well-deserved, obviously. So the next award that we have is on the band side of things, and that's Ellie Haworth, and she received a superior rating for at the Minnesota, it was the Music and Solo Ensemble on the band side of things. So she's a very talented French horn player, so congratulations, Ellie, as well. Anybody have any additions or deletions before we move on? Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which would be the agenda approval, adjustments, and announcements and... Oh, Casey was going to, yeah. The kids, Casey wanted to get a picture of you guys out in the hallway, and you do not have to stay for the rest of the meeting, okay? Unless you want to. Unless you got homework you don't want to do or something like that, but... Okay, so now we'll move on to the agenda approval. We'll start with that, so if I get a motion to move that forward.
So moved.
Laura?
Second.
Molly? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? That motion carries. Announcements. May 15th at 5 p.m., the school board will have a listening session in the Family Center. May 15th at 5:30, the school board will have a work session. May 22nd, filing opens for the school board seats. May 22nd at 7 p.m., regular school board meeting. May 28th, no school, Memorial Day. June 5th, which is a Tuesday, the filing for the school board seats close. June 7th is a Thursday, that's the last day for students. Same day, June 7th at 7 p.m. will be the commencement. June 12th at 5 p.m. will be a subcommittee on policy, and also June 12th at 7 p.m. will be a regular school board meeting. Superintendent, any correspondence this evening?
Mr. Chair and members, there's no correspondence this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next up is our communication to the board. At this time, citizens or employees may briefly address the board. The board will listen to the brief remarks, ask clarifying questions if necessary, and if desired, request that administration follow up. The board will not take action at this meeting on requests present at this time. We've got a bunch of people that want to speak, and I think that that's great. Just a couple, I'll call them ground rules for lack of a better terminology. The majority of the people here want to talk about reductions of programs, staffing, and things like that. What I would ask you to do is, if you're going to talk about that, please keep it generic as far as either mentioning specific students or specific staff. You know, to talk about a position is okay, but to be more specific and actually talk about people, I can't let you do that. That falls under the data privacy piece. So we have several people. So what I'm going to try and do is kind of, just in the name of efficiency for the meeting's purpose, I'm going to ask you to try to keep it somewhere under, well, for sure under 5 minutes, but somewhere maybe 3-4 minutes. If you feel like somebody has said what you feel like you have to say, you're more than welcome to come up and reiterate that. But if you feel your message has been come across already, you don't necessarily have to come up and speak. So it's up to you how you want to do that. But so with that said, we'll go ahead and get started our agenda. Just a recap of the communications to the board. We had several people that spoke this evening, expressing their concerns regarding reductions, eliminations, and transfer of staff regarding not specifically, but mostly music in the elementary schools. Next up would be the consent agenda, which would include the personnel report and minutes of the April 10th and 24th school board meetings, and then the April 17th work session. I'd be looking for a motion to move that forward.
So moved.
Is it Laura?
Second.
Molly? Discussion? I'm sorry, April 10th, not the April 17th. Thank you. Okay, now knowing it's the 10th instead, any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? That motion carries. Next up would be discussion reports and information items. Reports from members of the board. Board members will report out on board activities since the last regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. Lauren, you okay going first?
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
fine. It's been a busy couple of weeks in our community, and I think it proves that it'll be a really busy couple of weeks from here on out as well. I attended the Eat Up the Debt event at Community Grounds. It was really great to see a lot of community members supporting that, and the team that put that together. Kudos to them. I also attended the Citizens for Safer Streets meeting to get updates from that organization. I attended the career celebration for our retiring teachers and staff. I had conversations with Chair Larkin. I also attended the synchronized swimming show, their greatest show in H2O, prior to this meeting, and had several conversations with community members.
Okay, thank you. Laura, please.
Well, let me see. I attended the mayor's breakfast and the career celebration. It is nice to hear the stories of the long careers that they've had with our family here, and they're going to be very much missed. And we very much appreciate all the dedication for so many years. That's always a nice event, bittersweet. I also had lunch with Hala, and thank you very much. That was very nice. I also attended the subcommittee on policy, and that's pretty much it. Just a few conversations here and there with constituents, a few words, but nothing very long. If anybody wants to contact me, I'll be happy to talk with them. So anyway, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Paula?
I attended the Citizens for Safer Streets meeting, the mayor's interfaith breakfast, had lunch with Laura. Thank you for making the time for that. Had several conversations with community members and attended the policy subcommittee meeting today.
Okay, thank you. Molly?
I also attended the mayor's breakfast last week and the career celebration, and just echoing what Member Palmer said, some teachers are going to be really greatly missed in this district, and I just want to say thank you again to all of them for their dedication to the students here. I also attended some middle school and varsity track meets and had several conversations with community members, many of them being parents in the district. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Just briefly attended the play several times. We had actually the closing night. A lot of people showed up. It was really fun. The kids really performed well for that. The mayor's breakfast, the career celebration, I concur with what both Molly and Laura said about that. Conferences here at the high school, and then the policy meeting prior to the chair meeting tonight. So that concludes my report. Superintendent Kelly, do you have a report this evening?
Mr. Chair and members, this is my first day back from a brief medical leave, and so it seems like I missed a lot of good things, so I don't have a report for tonight, but I want to thank each and every one of you that are at the board level and at the director's table for supporting me while I was gone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up would be our climate survey. The board will be presented with information on the climate survey. I think we have the majority of our principals here.
Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. I'm here this evening with Principal Burkus, Principal Sosik, and Principal Robleski to present the school climate surveys. Our other two principals are actually out ill this evening, so they're not able to make it, and we would look forward to presenting that information at a later date. Of course, Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner. And the focus of this of the core values for this presentation will focus on that school community. This will be an informational update, so there won't be a governance question coming forward to you. We are working with the National School Climate Center to conduct the Comprehensive School Climate Survey and Inventory. Really looking, we understand how important it is to have that positive school climate, and we know that having that positive school climate can predict a lot of other indicators of success for our students and our schools. This is the first year that we're trying something a little bit new, and so I wanted to, before we show you the data, I wanted to make sure that you understood that we had high participation in some areas, average participation in other areas, and low participation in others. We have had conversations about what may have been some of the causes for that lower participation. For example, the organization was unable to provide me with a secure link, and so parents were asked to, at school events, to come to the school events and take the surveys, and that proved to be challenging. Some parents who were taking the survey ended up being 20, 25, even maybe 30 minutes and kind of gave up on the survey. So those are things that are tangible that we're working to resolve for future. One thing that's new this year with this survey is we used to survey elementary one year and then secondary another year. And so then we wouldn't be able to present to you and utilize data that was done on an annual basis. It was like every other year data. We didn't find that to be as useful. So from here on out, working to take a sampling of students at every school each year so that we have that consistent annual data. So you're going to see a lot of data, so I want to explain it to you before the principals go ahead and show you the data. There are different categories here, as you can see, 5 categories. Safety, teaching and learning. There's 2 categories just for staff, so leadership and professional relationships. Interpersonal relationships, and then social media was new in 2016. The reason that's relevant is, as I mentioned before, we've taken this every other year. So some of our data to compare it to that we had this year is from prior to that. So I think it's the elementaries that have a comparison with social media and the secondaries that don't. So that's what you'll see. Another thing you'll see is this very dark blue, a medium color blue, and a lighter blue. And what that means is the very darkest blue are results that are within that negative range. The middle color blue is the neutral range. And then that lighter blue is a positive range. So I think we added those to the slide, so in case you forget, it'll still be on the slide for you. So we're going to start with Principal Burkus in Columbia Academy.
Yeah, thank you. Superintendent Kelly, Chair Larkin, members of the board, pleased to be able to talk about our climate survey. I think at all of our schools, climate, culture of your building is important. At each of our buildings, we value more than just talking about our academics. We also value the core values that you see here and the values that show up in Rise Up for Us or CARES at the elementary, and I'm sure at the high school, Dan talks about his real expectations. So it's important and something we work on a daily basis in our school. Culture, climate is important. So as far as our numbers go and the results that you can see here, we are talking about students and school personnel, so you'll see this very similar slide for each of the schools. You'll see that we have rankings then on by our highest to our lowest, and that it changes a little bit as you look at it from our students' perspective to our school personnel. What I guess we would like to be able to say is that we're making progress, and as you can, and that there is some agreement among students and staff. I think that also is important. So as we look at this, we do see that there is pretty strong correlation throughout. If you look near the top, we have safety rules and norms, something that we do work on very much in our schools. And at the bottom, you do see that the two lowest, that social media and the sense of social emotional security. And we'll talk about those, I believe, in the next slide.
Yeah, and if I may interject, as these results were coming in, I was able to have a conversation with the national consultant. You know, when you get data, I had some questions, and the consultant was telling me that nationally, this trend of social media and social emotional security on this exact survey across the nation, those end up being in the lowest categories across the nation. So this is something that that is common, but definitely something to address.
So here you're able to see the comparison then between where we were last time and where we are now. And I think, again, if the colors on the right, you can see the positive, neutral, and negative. So we are looking at no dark blues here from our students, but we do have some neutral that we'd like to work on as well. You can see the social media and that sense of social emotional security as the ones that we are working on. We've seen some improvement overall as we look at the scores, as you compare them from 2015 to 2018. There is improvement, so we're pleased about that. Definitely, it points out where, especially I believe in the middle school, but probably in all schools, that social emotional security, that sense of well-being, how do I fit in here, is important. We do talk a lot about that we're a school where we hope every student knows that they belong and that there'll be good days and bad days, but you're part of our team. So this will give you the same kind of thing, but we've added the school personnel, so these are the same categories, the same areas. You can see here that as we're looking at that sense of social emotional security, we do have agreement that that is an area that we want to improve, that it is an area that with our school personnel and then with also the students, that we would say that that is an area that's important. So staff personnel saying that even more so. As you compare them, easy way to do it, I believe, is just to look at is there more light blue or dark blue in the second slide from the first. I think you'll see that there is. So we hope that we are moving forward in our school and working. It's a long journey always, but the culture of our building, we believe, is essential for the academic achievement of our building. It's a prerequisite for it. So again, that sense of social emotional security, the social media as well, those are things that we will be working on as we go through our next school, the rest of this school year and into our next school year as well.
Good evening, Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. The high school would like to take a look at our data, and I would like to point out that we are looking at ninth grade students. So they are coming into our building with less than 1 year. It's a transition year, And we'd like to talk about our core values of the high school of keeping it real. And so as we look at our data of our ninth grade students and looking at culture and climate, it's always important to say we've had less than 9 months to be working with the ninth grade students, but our data shows here the correlation that mirrors what the staff feels as well. You look at the social support of adults, of our students. I think I'd like to point out the respect of diversity, how our students feel, and safety rules and norms. Those are our 3 highlighted areas that we are proud of at the high school. And I think as Principal Burkus pointed out, you see on the bottom that we have the social media and the physical sense of security and social emotional. I think sometimes when we look at these surveys, we have to look at what's happening in our society today with a number of students feeling some anxiety with everything happening in schools across our nation. So I think that's something that we need to take into consideration. As we look at the next slide, you can see that we have improved from 3 years ago. We're excited about that. Again, the new category, the social media piece, is a challenge, and we continue to work on that. I'd like to go to our next slide, which is unique.
This one.
Yes, and the point that you can see where we have a neutral is with the physical surroundings, but as you look at staff is seeing the social media and the piece of leadership. So our staff has looked over our data, and 2 goals that we have for next year is the continuation of impact of our students with real expectations with our culture and climate. And we also are working with Principal Burkus and our leadership of our high school students, bridging that gap between middle school and high school. So we've worked on that a little bit this year. One example of what we've done is the basketball team going to the state tournament. We had a pep fest for the championship game, and we invited Principal Burkus and the 8th grade class to come up for our pep fest and to get those students excited about coming to high school and having that high school experience before they enter into our school. And I can just tell you that the success that we had with that, Principal Burkus and I are working to see how we can keep that partnership going throughout the start of the school year. And we've talked a little bit about having more students coming down student leadership with our link crew and working with the 8th graders as well as coming up throughout the year for our Pep Fest. So those are some goal areas and focus of the high school, and we continue to work on our culture and climate.
And just to reiterate, the colors are showing positive and neutral on this slide.
Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board, good evening. Let's take a look at North Park. I don't want to revisit a whole lot of things because there's a lot of similarities between all the schools. A couple of things that I'd like to point out for North Park, I'm very proud that for both students and staff, our second highest rated area is respect for diversity. Equity is something that we take very seriously, and we work very diligently with our staff as well as our students. And our students actually are quite good at being accepting of everyone. Another piece that I'd like to point out is the connectedness and engagement. It's the 4th highest rating for students and the 3rd highest rating for staff. And it's my humble opinion that engagement is really everything. The engaged student, the engaged staff person are the highest performing student and the highest performing staff person. So we're very pleased with that. As you can see with our school personnel, more than half of our ratings are at a 4 or above. And our students, we have almost half are 4 or above. Of course, looking down, just like the other schools, we're looking at the sense of social and emotional security. However, One thing I'd like to point out, we have the lowest ratings in the district of sense of physical security, and I think that has an awful lot to do with the structure of our building and the non-secure entrance, and there's been an awful lot of talk about that. So I think even students are more aware of it now than they would have been a year ago, simply because of the campaign last fall. And then this gives us a longer range view showing our growth since 2016. While the colors are similar, there is still an awful lot of growth. And again, we're seeing a lot of our areas are at 4 or above. The slide I like best is this one because I do like looking at growth. And as you can see, we've lowered our number of neutral areas significantly since 2016, which is really what we're striving for. We want every year to be at least a little bit better than the last year. And I guess to close out, I'd like to reiterate what Principal Burke has said in the opening. Really, there's very little that is more important than the culture of a building. Without a positive culture in a school building, learning just will not happen. And so I think we're all fortunate in our school district that we're seeing the results of this survey showing that the climates in our buildings are actually quite good. Thank you.
We did compile across the district a district view of what are the parents telling us on this survey. And as you can already see, this team is despite the overwhelmingly positive or neutral categories, looking for areas for growth and areas that are working well. As was previously mentioned, respect for diversity, connectedness and engagement, support for learning and social support were areas that parents reported working well. And areas for growth, social media, sense of a social emotional security. So again, we're seeing that across the nation. And then, as Principal Sosik mentioned, North Park parents in particular mentioned that sense of physical security. So again, this is an informational update. There will not be a governance question to follow. Thanks.
Do you have any questions or comments?
I have a question. Can you talk a little bit about the types of questions that were asked or what the focus of the sense of the social emotional security, kind of just give some ideas. I'd just like to get in my head like what that is actually talking about.
So I don't have the list of exact questions here with me today. I do have access to those questions, however, so I can certainly bring those back.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Next up would be information regarding the expansion of the Anchor program.
Good evening, Chairman Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly, and my colleagues, directors. I'm George Holt, and I'd like to stop for a moment and say it's been a distinct pleasure to be your Director of Special Ed for these last few months. I have had 52 years of experience in education, and I think this is going to be my highlight. This is a tremendous district. It's a community. So I'd like to say thank you for this opportunity.
So this evening, we're here to present to you information on the expansion of the Anchor program, which is currently at the high school, expanding to Columbia Academy. And of course, our mission is to create worlds of opportunity for every learner. And the core values really focus on courage, innovation, and excellence.
The Anchor program is a blend of education and a day treatment program. And this is mental health services and individualized education in a program located in our high school. This is one of the few in the state, by the way. The Nexus staff are the mental health professionals and practitioners, and their funding comes from private insurance or public insurance. The students who participate in the program, they do have individualized education programs if they're in special education, or they have a specialized regular education program. For the Columbia High School, the Anchor program is needed at the academy During just the few months I've been here, we have had over 10 incidences involving students with significant mental health needs. We have students who wait from 18 days to over 3 months or even longer to get private or supported daycare or any kind of mental health treatment. The waiting lists are growing, and it's getting more challenging to become eligible. As you know, more and more, we are hearing about mental health services in our media, and it's everywhere we seem to go. I'd like to smile and say the anchor program at the high school is truly an awesome program. We have 8 youngsters who came to school. They were teenagers, and now they're students, and they're in school. I think that's a real critical point. I'd like to say that we just newly enrolled a student, and her very first day, she stopped and said, "I think for the first time I'm developing a friendship." That's a high school student. Program for 2018-19, the program will go to be replicated, and we're going to be asking that the Nexus program provides for a practitioner 1 to have practice and skills, so that what the students learn in treatment, they will also have replication in the education program. As far as the day treatment program goes, the staff with Nexus will be responsible providing a day treatment program. It'll be for 3 hours a day. This will have individual, group, and skills, and it will also have accompanying practitioners for skill support. The day program will be at the high school for half a day, and the day treatment program will then move to the Columbia Academy. For education, we're going to add the practitioner 1 from Nexus will be providing to add skills training to the education component, and our teacher will travel on the opposite sides, where there'll be a half a day of education at the high school and then travel to the academy to do the other half a day. We're also looking at making sure that we have the educational assistants who can help make sure that our groups are organized and will be able to have additional practice and skills. They work on an individualized regular education curriculum, so it's important we have the assistants. The cost to Nexus will be they have to add the cost of the practitioner 1 to their program, but they have about the same staff cost, but they'll have double billing opportunities. So we're hoping that this will then be a full program for students who have significant mental health needs. As far as the education costs, I said there was no staff cost, but I have to take that back. We have to add a half hour of staff time for the educational assistant because we didn't have enough time because we're going to 2 different schools. Sorry about that, Lindsay. She caught me. We also are asking that the Nexus staff participate in all our policies and procedures, and that they have to participate with our staff in all the trainings, and we'd like to have that staff also participate in the New Year teacher training program, so that they will have all the skills that they need to know about our policies and our procedures in our schools. Any questions?
I would just reiterate that the need to start the anchor program a few years ago was due to exorbitant costs of sending students off campus to facilities that could provide these services. And by providing this type of service right here at the high school and now at Columbia Academy, it's a tremendous cost savings to the district. Would you agree with that?
If you think that'd be about $40,000 per student and then multiply that by 8, now 9, we would have a significant cost for our district. And now we're going to add it. The exciting thing is we're talking to a parent that has had a child who has some significant issues with coming to school, anxiety and other things. The parent, we were talking about the possibility of bringing the anchor program down to the academy, and I started to have tears because she said they'd never heard of such a program and that it was education and day treatment, and her daughter needs it and they can't get in, and they've been trying for over 4 months.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Laura?
Actually, I have a comment. I'm actually very fond of this program because I think one of the other benefits, I've seen a lot of seminars about how often the students that have the greatest need are often pulled out of these opportunities, which keep them up with their classes. So the therapy is extraordinarily important in the peer interaction, but they often are missing out on those educational opportunities, which don't do very much to help them to fit in with their student group. So this is a really good program. I'm glad to hear we're going to be making, we're not only going to be doing a better job, but it's also going to be costing less, which is a really big deal. So thank
It's
you.
hard for parents to access quality mental health services, and I have to give a very big plus to our teacher, Kim. She's done an outstanding job, and I wish you could have seen these students in November when I arrived, very first part of November. I didn't mention, but they they went and competed at the State Department of Health. They had a 30-second video competition on of abuse of antibiotics. Well, these kids made 3 videos, and we got a call that all 3 made the top 6 in the state. And we went down, so I said, we took the kids down, and I bought them a pizza dinner, and I wish you could have seen those kids in April compared to November in a public setting. They were perfect ladies and gentlemen. They were interacting with each other. They were bantering each other. And then they went to the award ceremony, and they won $500 for second and third place, and we had an honorable mention. And they did the work. So I have to be really proud of these kids. And so their request for their $500, which we haven't quite received yet, we're still dealing with Department of Human Services, but was to go to Cold Stone Ice Cream. And we went last Friday, and they got their big sundaes and ice cream cones. And again, those ladies and gentlemen were absolutely ladies and gentlemen. And I'd take them anywhere.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Thank you, George. Next
you.
up would be the transition program revision.
This, Chairman Larkin, members of the board, and Superintendent Kelly, and my colleagues, directors. When I came here, one of the things I was noticing that we have high costs for our placements at 916. And we know those costs are going up. And one of the reasons we have these costs is we have kids who, and I'm not even going to follow this for a moment, because we have kids who just are needing extraordinary services, and we have been so focused on getting kids credits and getting to school. So one of the things I took a look at is take a look at our secondary transition program. And the transition program is a process of just preparing students for life after school. It includes planning for post-secondary education and training and employment and independent living. The areas of evaluation and planning must be relevant to the pupil's needs and include work, leisure, recreation, home living, community participation, post-secondary, training, and other learning opportunities. Why the revision? We're going to get into more compliance issues with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, where it requires, starting at age 16, that they have a transition plan, and it's based on the student's needs and what are the outcomes with parents and student input. Then we have a Minnesota statute that says during grade 9, may I go to the next slide, please? During grade 9, our Minnesota statute says must address the student's transition from secondary services to post-secondary education, training, employment, community participation, recreation, leisure, and home living. And then we're going to compound that with the Omni decision that says students must be in their least restrictive environment, and this is a Supreme Court decision that is coming down on all of us now that says they must be with their peer cohorts. So when you are entering 9th grade with a student with an IEP, you should have the same expectation, training, and activities that you're graduating with your cohorts in 12th grade. So that's part of the reason we did a real look at transition programs. One of the things I did then was look at enrollment data, and we have 22 additional students coming into the Columbia High School that will need transition services. In the years following, the numbers could increase dramatically in current enrollment trends if these current enrollment trends continue. And believe me, when I look at the child count in the areas of like autism, they will continue. So our plan is to reorganize and restructure a little bit our transition program so that all students in grade 9 will have a transition plan. It'll be a part of the IEP process. It will have evaluations, it will have parent input, and it will have student input as to what are the outcomes of their transition years. What would they like to do after 12th grade? It is important that the transition planning start in 9th grade be in compliance with our federal and state laws. After the planning, then in 10th and 11th grade, we're going to have major pushes for career and job exploration, job shadowing, vocational assessment, and you'll see the letters RISE and Project Search. RISE is a vocational education evaluation where they actually pay students to be in placements. And Project Search is where students go to major corporations where they work, like the hospitals at Regions, and over 90% of those students are employed after they finish the search project. I'm very pleased to say that we have a student who has been accepted into search for the next school year and will be participating in the Veterans Affairs. In 12th grade, it should be looking at job training, job support, and post-secondary options. Transition, staffing, and planning. The planning and implementation of the 2018-19 school year where individualized transition plans will be developed as part of the IEP process. Students in grade 12 10 through 12 will also have a transition planning and program, and we're encouraging the staff to develop seminars on life skills, leisure, recreation, community, transportation, and all community aspects. For the for the next school year, we're going to try and do it with all the staff we just have now. There will be no additional staff requested. It is anticipated that there will be some additional costs because we're going to create a home living environment within one of our classrooms, which will mean we're going to have a bed and dining room table and things, so that it will be like it was an apartment, so that when they learn how to clean and cook and sew and mend and wash and laundry and iron and all those things, it's going to be like it's real, but it'll be right here in our school. What's the cost savings? With the current cost of placements, and if we are able to do this with our staff, in the next 2 years, we should have a cost savings of over $300,000. We'll also have more students. We'll be pushing to go into Project Search, and we'll also be, looking at doing more with the RISE program, where students will be in a program, vocational evaluation, approved by the Economic Security of Minnesota, and they get actually paid and job shadowing while they're in this program. It is no cost to the Columbia Heights School District other than for transportation, and if the student requires a child-centered support staff member. We have very competent professional development in our district, happen to be right next to me. And we also have some people who can help us from 916. We also have some tremendous resources available at the Minnesota Department of Education's website. They have posted all kinds of transition materials, tests, just a whole bunch of things that can be used. We will have to restructure. One of the things I'm looking at is having a site within a site like the Anchor program, so we can have accountability. We can have where we can track the costs, personnel activities, and make it a program where we may be using the IEP process for graduation rather than the credit basis. Because the IEP can generate a graduation and a diploma just like the students get any other diploma. And we'll have them on track, on task, and with good job skills. That's our plan. Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
I have one
Yes.
comment. It's a lot to take in, so thank you.
Yes.
But just overall, I want to thank you for your commitment to providing education to all of our students and doing it in such a ways that would create some efficiencies and cost savings for us down the road. I don't see that through these cost savings, we are providing less, but we're providing more.
Actually, I think we're going to provide more.
So, thank you for this obviously took a lot of time, so thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Been my pleasure.
Anyone else?
Yes.
I just, I have a comment as far as the life skills.
Yes.
One of the things that they do through a program over at 916 is they actually have like a living on your own kind of a deal. You're trying to create that within the school atmosphere for these students. So are we looking at a single room? What kind of modifications are we looking at? What level of skills are these students going to be learning at the high school? And these students are ready for this? I mean, they don't need any more specialized type of supports?
They're going to need specialized support all the way through school. That's typically what we find.
Significant?
Some, yes, they will.
Okay.
They will. And we have to say that we have students who have a wide range of skills in special education. Some will benefit. I think I could have benefited from life skills, learning how to sew and iron and wash and cook and dry clothes and things like that.
Called home ec.
Yeah, well, they didn't let males take it back in the days I was in school. That's a few years ago. But, yeah, we think that we're going to have to set up, and the room is available. We already have a washer, dryer, sink. You know, those things are already there. It's just the other living things so that it can make it a real experience. If you're going to do laundry, you need to be able to make the bed. You need to be able to fold the clothes. You need to be able to put it away. If you need to clean the toilet, there's a toilet there. It's got to be cleaned. Okay, so it's trying to make sure it's a life skills, and it can be replicated to any environment that the student may go to. So we'll have some students who will be in sheltered or supported employment because of their skill level, but we don't want to say that to any one student because you want them to maximize what they can do. And we'll have some students who will be fully employed. And our goal is to have a lot of these students out their senior year being fully employed where they can have support. And then when school ends, what do they have? They have a job, and we have some community skills, and we have travel skills and leisure skills, so that they should be able to fit in and feel part of our communities.
Well, and as we're having more students that are requiring these additional supports, it does make sense that we can economize by having a mini program within our schools, whereas if we some of the specialized services that we contract with 916 are more for, you can't create an entire program for a single student, whereas if we have several students that we can assist
We do.
with.
We'll have 22 students, and the thing I think about all the time is how much time do these students spend on our buses going to and from 916? There's a cost there, but it's more than the cost of dollars. It's a cost of instructional time, and you know. I've been here when we've had buses late, and they stand out here and wait, and they get on the buses to go to 916, and then it seems to me we're not being efficient with their time.
I agree. I completely agree.
But we still will have students who will require the services of 916. We got to remember, we're not a big district like Minneapolis and St. Paul. We still need some services for some students that we just can't provide, nor would we want to.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just have, I'm sorry, one quick comment is, and you touched a little bit on it when you talked about the transportation time, but I think more important than that, going back to the Anchor program and now this program, just keeping our kids, you know, physically at their home school.
This is a community.
It is.
Our schools we have 5 buildings, but I've learned they're a community. And why don't we have our kids in our community?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just, the other thing is just a huge thank you to you. I know that you've been very committed in the short time that you've been here, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. As I said to Super Killick, you actually are paying me to do this. Thank you. It's been a distinct pleasure. The support from the people over there, and I think there's some people not quite there now because she's sitting right next to me. This district has people who really have skills and have been here a while to help all of us who are newbies like me. They are marvelous. You're very fortunate to have the directors that you have here to help us. Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. Next up is long-term facility maintenance plan.
Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the school board. This evening, I'm here to just give an informational item on the long-term facility maintenance plan for Columbia Heights. If you look at page 67 on your board book, lots of numbers, so, but this is something that, it's the third year of long-term facility maintenance, and if you'll recall, this is a replacement of the old health and safety levy. And this evening, on page 67, is a summary of the 10-year plan that estimates your budget that's required to be sent into the Minnesota Department of Education every year. What would go on our fall levy is the column labeled 2019. And if you look at the top section, those are the old health and safety categories. Those are the types of things you pay for hazardous waste disposal, your elevator inspections, your fire inspections, your HERA surveys for asbestos, things like that that follow under health and safety. And then in the lower half of that project, or of the sheet, would be the projects that would be done for deferred maintenance. And so in fiscal 19, which most of those projects will actually happen next summer, or a summer from now, the projects that are really being proposed in that $1 million is control upgrades for Columbia Academy, the high school, and North Park. Some windows for Valley View. If you'll recall, that project we talked about at a couple board meetings ago, replacement for the windows at Valley View. And then prioritization of some of the sections of roofs in the buildings that need to be replaced. That's what would be proposed to be paid for this levy next year. On page 68 and 69 of the board packet, I just included this to show you kind of where the money comes from. The Department of Education has not updated this sheet yet, but I did include it. I wanted to get this done before the end of June, before I leave, so I wanted to make sure you saw that. But if you go to page 69, right in the middle section of that, it indicates how much of this would be aid and how much of it would be levy. So it's just a reminder that about 35 to 40% of these dollars actually come from state aid.
Can I interrupt for a moment?
Yes.
I'm wondering, why isn't any of this projected up here?
I can, it's just a lot of numbers, so I didn't do it. And I looked at the meeting last year and it wasn't projected. And I assumed it was just because of numbers.
I think it would be helpful for the public to see
Sure.
what the numbers are that we're working with. You know, we're talking about cuts and a levy that didn't pass, and we're working with a lot of numbers, and it's important for the public to see.
Let's see, I think this is the one. There you go. So the upper level, this is the 2019 column that I was referring to. And this upper area here is the health and safety that I referred to in the first part of my conversation, where I'm talking about it's replacing old health and safety. It pays for things like your HERA, your asbestos survey and removal. It pays for elevator inspections, fire inspections, hazardous waste removal, those types of things in the school. And then the lower level of this spreadsheet shows where the projects are for deferred maintenance. And so that's where the roof system is indicated in there, and site projects, that would be the window replacement at Valley View. And then this is the sheet from the Department of Education. It's got a lot of numbers. It's very small print, but it's just indicating how much of it is levy and how much of it is aid. And again, this is not an updated sheet, but it's just to show you that about 35 to 40% of this, depending on the year, is paid through aid and not levy. And this is an informational item, and we'll come back to the school board on May 22nd for action. And every year it needs to be approved at the school board, and then it's sent into the Department of Education.
Questions? Anybody have any questions or comments?
Will these charts be available online for people to see, members of the public to look into, to zoom in?
They're already,
They're
I
already
believe,
there.
out there, aren't they? They can be. No? They're not out there yet. Okay.
Can they be, though?
Is it something that can be?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously, like, nobody can, we can
Right.
zoom in over here
Yeah.
and see, but,
It's
you know,
just-
if people can look at it online, that would be good.
Okay.
Well, it's even hard here because you can't see the columns and zoom in and see the numbers either.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions or comments on that? Great. Next would be the Northeast Metro 916 Long-Term Facility Maintenance Plan.
Okay, I'll do the same thing with theirs. This is, full screen, Mom. So the first pages of your board packet is just the official board motion that you'll be requested to approve at the next board meeting. That's on page 71 of the board packet. And then the page that I am showing up on the screen now is the 10-year long-term facility maintenance plan for Northeast Metro 916. And you can see that they don't have a lot on the lower part for deferred maintenance, mostly because they own 3 buildings, but they're all 3 new. And the other buildings that they have their programs in, they don't own. They're leased or they're part of a member district, and so the health and safety or deferred maintenance shows up on there more often than not. The upper part of their of this sheet in column 2019, again, you'll see it's the health and safety dollars that they need to spend in their district. In 2018, there was a large amount in there because they were doing a large asbestos removal project over at Capitol View, and now that's phasing out. Our share of the $105,000, the share for Columbia Heights Public Schools is $7,700, and I think it's $7,171.03. And so again, every member district pays for a proportional share of this levy. It's based on 50% on utilization and 50% on your tax capacity. So this, again, is an informational item and will be brought back to the school board on May 22nd for action.
Okay. I see that's a resolution is the first one. Will that be a resolution as well, or just an action item? Our long-term.
Ours will just be an action item.
But it's a resolution for
Right.
916. Okay.
The resolution is there for Northeast Metro 916 because they can't levy anything unless each individual school district approves this resolution.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Next, food service management contract.
Okay. Chair Larkin, members of the school board, Superintendent Kelly. This evening, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the food service contract that we have in place with Sodexo and an option for renewal of that contract. Our mission, of course, is to create worlds of opportunity for every learner at Columbia Heights. This information is a lot about collaboration, excellence, and community. And the contract information, the original bid with Sodexo was in the 2015-16 school year. It was for a 3-year time frame. The Minnesota Department of Education this year announced that they would allow a 1-year renewal on these types of contracts. The renewal for this contract would include a 1.9% fee increase. And then it would require that next school year, about this time next year, that this contract would be bid out again at a public bid. The goals for Sodexo that we've had in the contract from the very beginning. Last September, I know that the manager of Sodexo and Bill Holmgren came and gave the board an update on the contract and basically talked about the goal of having the fund balance for this food service program be strong and remain strong. And under Sodexo's leadership, it has increased each year of the contract. Where we're feeling like right now we're starting to have a healthy enough fund balance where we can maybe start to expand the programs that are happening in food service. The healthy food options continue to grow under Sodexo's leadership. That was a large initiative when the contract was awarded to them. The district wanted to start offering more healthy options and having salad bars at the different schools, having farm-to-school initiatives where we're having fresh foods brought in, and they're locally grown where possible. We have a couple of different contracts with local farms where we buy produce from them and bring it into the schools for fresh produce. And what we've asked Sodexo to work on in this next year is to really look at a scratch cooking initiative. It would have to be a multi-year plan. You don't just start scratch cooking. You have to really evaluate what equipment do you have in your buildings, do you have the right staff, and how are you going to roll it out. So we've asked Sodexo to sit down with our food service staff and talk to them about what their thoughts are and how we could get this started. Some people, a scratch cooking initiative means, you know, soup once a week that's homemade, and some people think it's a whole meal. And so we really want to talk to our staff about what do they think our students would enjoy the most, what do they think that we're capable of doing right away, and what are their interests. And so that's one thing that we've asked them to work on with this contract. Any questions?
Anybody have questions? So it's an action item to approve the contract for one more year.
The action item will be brought on May 22nd
Okay.
to approve the contract
All right.
renewal.
Thank you. Next up will be our action items. Discontinuance or reduction of programs and positions for 2018-19.
Okay.
Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. Back in February, we were here with the resolution directing the administration and the superintendent to look at efficiencies. We have been meeting since January, looking at enrollment, placing staff, trying to keep as many people in the family as possible. And so tonight we here are asking for the adoption of the said resolution to discontinue or reduce educational programs and positions for 2018-2019.
Okay, as always, we'll start with a motion, a second, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So if I get a motion to move this forward.
So moved.
Laura?
Second.
Molly? I'll read the resolution. Whereas the School Board of Independent School District Number 13 adopted a resolution on February 13th, 2018, directing the administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions. Whereas said recommendations have been received and considered by the school board, be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 13 as follows. The following programs and positions or portions thereof be discontinued due to enrollment, program elimination, curricular changes, and department efficiencies. 11.0763 FTE net licensed and non-licensed elementary positions. 5.0 FTE net district licensed and non-licensed positions. All teacher positions with licensure variances by law need to renew. And then all teacher positions that were one-year contract, long-term substitute positions, and all positions cut for performance. Okay. Conversations, discussion. Okay, hearing none, Hall, it's a roll call.
Lewis.
Aye.
Larkin.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Hammer.
Aye.
A Samurai. Aye.
Motion carries. Next up would be the termination of probationary teacher contracts.
Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. This resolution is the termination of any probationary teacher contracts. This is done in accordance with Minnesota Statute 122A40, which gives a deadline date that we have to non-renew probationary teachers. So the names listed above are those cut for performance, either position, long-term substitute, So there's many reasons why the names listed are being non-renewed. So here we're tonight seeking approval of the said resolution.
Okay, start again with a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Molly?
Second.
Laura? Resolution relating to termination and non-renewal of teaching contracts of probationary teachers. Whereas the following persons are probationary teachers in Independent School District Number 13 as stated below, be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 13 that pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 12A.40, Subdivision 5, the teaching contracts of those persons listed on page 2 of this resolution, probationary teachers of Independent School District Number 13, are hereby terminated and not renewed at the close of the current 2017-2018 school year. Be it further resolved that written notice be sent to said teachers regarding termination and non-renewal of a contract as provided by law. Discussion.
I would like to, I guess, make a few comments. We did direct the administration to go over our programs, make sure that we were right-sized when we have to make cuts. It's horrible, it's painful, but it needs to be done to make sure that we're in a healthy position again next year. Our options are to continue in funding a program that we do not have the student counts for at certain, in the lower grades. Our student body is moving up into the upper grades. As more students come into the district, a lot of these positions that will need to be filled again at some point. So you always see more reductions at the elementary level than you do in the other levels unless we have a significant drop-off. If we have the opportunity to, we will always do what's in the best interest of our students and our staff and our community. But I am not comfortable with the idea of moving into some sort of a statutory operating debt by overspending money we do not have. We need to do this now to allow the staff that are affected to be able to have an opportunity to see if they can find a good position and not have to put it off so that they find out at a later point. It's unfortunate that we literally don't have enough to keep everybody we really, really want to keep. Okay.
Anyone
I
else?
think that's it. Sorry.
You know, I guess this is hard. This isn't new. This is every year at this time. I don't want people to feel that this is something that was a surprise to us. We, as a board, we did set the goal for our budget for next year. That does not fall on administration. We made the decision for them to fall within these guidelines. And I know that it's hard for the passionate parents that are here. I get it. I've been there. I probably, if I weren't sitting here, would have been over there as well. It's tough, and same thing with what Member Palmer said. We don't want to go into statutory operating debt. We want to continue. What I am hopeful for is that we find ways within the district to really ensure that some of those gaps are going to be met, that we are looking at movement in the classrooms, that we are looking at music, whether it's in encore programs, or that we really make extra efforts to meet those needs of the students so that they are excited about school. The only other thing I want to touch base on is when we talk about a person, I know that I received some emails and directly about one person over at one of the schools that's being affected. And I understand the importance of one person, but we try really hard to make sure that people stay in the family. And so we make the decisions we make with the entire district in mind. I don't know what else to say. It's a hard thing to be sitting here.
I think also as a board, for those folks that took their time to not only come and speak, but to wait for us to get to this point. As a board, we do have a commitment to arts and to equity, and really looking at what the factors are that determine the programs. And that I think as a board, we've discussed that, having the arts within all of our schools is extremely important. And we have provided that feedback to the administration. We are trusting that they will make sure that every learner has an opportunity to explore their talents and to be to have music and art and physical education. It may look a little different from year to year, but it's there and it's a focus, and it's something that as a district we're committed to.
As a district, we're committed to meeting the needs of all of our students, and that's the whole child. And it's hard to sit at this place right here today, because I'm hyper aware of the responsibility we have to watch out for the kids and our mission statement, but we're also responsible to make sure that we're making financially sound decisions. And it's hard. It's hard. I'm a parent. I'm a teacher. I feel this roller coaster every year. And like Member Lewis said, if I weren't here, I would have been right there with the parents, making my voice heard. This is hard, and I don't want anyone here to think that we're taking these decisions lightly. We're just trying to weigh things for all the kids, because it's a finite amount of money. We have the special education cross subsidy that's draining our resources. It would be nice to find more money, but we can't. The government is not even paying us the money that they owed us and promised us, and it's draining. And we're trying to do the best we can. Things have to come off somewhere, and we're trying to cut. We hope these changes or these cuts are not going to be lasting, but it would not be financially smart to use money we don't have, overspend, and then try to backfill it later and make drastic cuts then.
And I think from, maybe you can answer this question, but can you reiterate our commitment to providing arts education to all of our students, and perhaps how some of that will be done?
Yeah, in light of the proposal, in terms of some of the cuts, and Member Lewis mentioned, we do have our 21st Century Grant, so there are opportunities in after school. However, during the school day, we're also looking at how can we be very purposeful and planful about infusing art and music within the school day as well, within that scope and sequence of the curriculum. As you, our elementary education license allows for our classroom teachers not only to teach reading and math curriculum, they're all trained in order to get their license. They're all trained in art education and in music education. So by law, they can teach I think it's up to 0.33% of their instructional day, the different subject areas. Now, this district has a long history of going above and beyond that, where many of our surrounding districts, the art and music is taught by the classroom teacher. This district, we have been very committed to the arts and making sure that we do have the additional specialists who have the specialized licenses. I think you've seen some evidence of that this evening, our wonderful staff. We have also, in the last 5 years, it was mentioned at the board table that we take a district view. So over the last 5 years, the district has actually increased the number of staff members in visual and performing arts combined. As the bulk of our students move towards the middle school and high school, and we have fewer and fewer students at the elementary level, it's a little, that we see less just staff in general there. The way that specialist time works is that it allows the classroom teachers their prep time, and the specialist teachers have a prep time at a different time. And therefore, the number of specialist teachers that we're able to offer is directly tied to the number of sections at each grade level in the elementary school. So for example, there's been discussion this evening about equity, and equity doesn't necessarily mean equal. The numbers at the schools are not equal. I think as of today, Highland Elementary has 600 plus students enrolled, whereas North Park, for example, as of today has 414 students enrolled. That's a significant difference, and we don't staff equal when there's about 200 students different at the different buildings. So with that in mind, we do have a teaching and learning department and a great staff of folks who work to support teachers with their creative and innovative ways to, during the school day, tap into their talents and infuse art and music. So we are working on plans for that. We're looking at the art and music standards. We already know what the art and music curriculum is because it comes, flows through our department. So it was mentioned before, we want to work on some of those gaps in different and creative ways. It may not look the same, but it will be there. Long-winded, sorry.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll just reiterate what the other board member said. This isn't an easy decision. We're parents too, so these things impact potentially our students as well. We know the teachers. This is not an easy thing to do, and the process has been going on, as it states, since February. So if you're looking for ways to help us correct some of these problems, and this is my own personal opinion, a huge source of our issues is, and somebody mentioned it, but it's the money we're spending out of pocket every year on unfunded mandates. It was $5.7 million this year. In my understanding, it's going to be more next year, Christine. Mm-hmm. That's if we weren't, even if we were half of that or a third of that, we could have for our programs, for our students, and for our things, the things that we could do. So energy is directed towards your legislatures, towards the people that are not saying you need to do this and we're going to give you this money to do it, and instead you need to do this and we're not going to give you any money. Help us with that part, and that'll make nights like this a little less painful for all of us. So, but that's, I appreciate everybody that spoke tonight, your passion, the people that came up way outside of their comfort levels. I respect that. So thank you for doing that. Mm-hmm. Please.
Mr. Chair and members of the community, I want to underscore that as the superintendent and it has been always my mission in life to have our heads in the academics and our hearts in the arts. And I think tonight we need your help. Right now at the legislature, we have a $5.7 million cross subsidy that is equivalent to about 75 teachers. And both state and federal legislators have committed to the programs, but we have not seen the funding. It's being discussed at the legislature, and Governor Dayton, and this is key, and this is not a political statement, Governor Dayton has looked at the school districts across the state, and we're not alone. St. Anthony, for as small as they are going to cut $1.2 million this year out of their budget, and they have 1,800 students over there. Governor Dayton and one of our representatives from our district, actually in the House, are looking at what they call crisis emergency funds to give to districts like us so that we can keep some programs that we may have to cut. It would not solve the problem, but it would be, at least for 1 year, an opportunity to keep more people in the family and to buy down some of our cross-subsidy. It's not the answer. The answer really is to get after that cross-subsidy and be sure that the federal government and the state is really paying us for what those children need, so they're not eating up the funds from the general fund. But if any of you feel of a mind to drop an email to members of the legislature, not in a political way, but I'm just encouraging you, because we do have money on the line. Right now, it is proposed. It's not a lot, but it could help us self-correct, as Chair Larkin said, some of these issues. And every bit of money coming in would help our students, and it would also help us maintain some of our staff. So I'd encourage you to think about that. Thank you.
Any further discussion regarding the motion that's on the table? Okay, hearing none, then it's a roll call vote again. Hala?
Lewis. Aye. Larkin.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Palmer.
Aye.
Samurai. Aye.
Motion carries. And our last action item is the termination of programs and position resolution.
Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly, the final staffing resolution is the termination, elimination, or reduction of its licensed and non-licensed, non-affiliated positions, so those that don't fall under Minnesota Statute 122A40. So tonight, we're here seeking approval of this resolution.
A motion to move that forward, please.
So moved.
Laura?
Second.
Is that Hala?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution relating to the termination, eliminations, and reduction of positions and programs. Whereas the following are positions or employees in Independent School District Number 13 as stated below. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 13 that those persons or positions listed above in the Independent School District Number 13 are hereby terminated, eliminated, or reduced at the close of the current 2017-2018 school year or on the date otherwise noted. Be it further resolved that written notice be sent to said employees regarding termination, elimination, or reduction. Discussion.
I think just one comment as we look at this resolution in particular, that we're not just looking at finding our efficiencies in one school over another. I mean, enrollment obviously plays a part in that, but we've got positions in the district offices and administration and high school and, across the board, that these efficiencies are being looked at. So, and that's, plays into this resolution in particular.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing no further discussion. Roll call, please, Hala.
Lewis. Aye. Larkin.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Palmer.
Aye.
Samurai. Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is board topics. Anybody have anything for board topics?
Can I just make one comment again? I just would really like to let the folks here know that I really truly appreciate the time that they took to spend with us today. Very difficult meeting for us, and obviously a difficult meeting for them as well, but they stuck with us for the last 2 hours and passionately spoke about what they're looking for and the needs for their students, and I hope that they continue to be passionate about those needs, about all students, and continue to work with us as we work together to make sure we're providing the best education for all students in our community.
Sure. Anyone else? Board topics?
Yeah, I'd also like to thank members of the public who came and spoke and watched and pushed yourselves out of your comfort zone and used up your Tuesday evening to be here and then wait for us to get to this part. I do want to say that we heard you, and I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure I'm speaking for the rest of you. I heard the urging us to table it and wait. But looking at everything there is, I'm not confident that anything better could come out. And it would just make it a much more difficult situation for the staff who need to figure things out for next year. Right now is a hard time of year. You know, a lot of positions are already filled, and it's a hard time of year, and we at least owe that to members of our family.
Anyone else under board topics? Hearing none. Meeting's adjourned at 9:12.